My son never picked up for 2 weeks. So I chose to visit his house quietly, but when I got there, something suddenly shifted under my grandson's bed. When police raised the bed, what we saw left us all in shock because inside, I never thought a phone call could become a weapon, silent and terrifying. But when my son, Noah, disappeared for 2 weeks, his silence carved a hollow place inside me, hinting at a truth far darker than I could ever imagine. On that fateful day, I took the first bus heading to Denver. The 3-hour ride passed in a blur, my eyes glued to the window, my heart a tightening knot. I told myself to calm down, but my hands trembled holding the ticket. By the time I got off at the main terminal, dusk was settling. I walked quickly toward the familiar gated community where Noah lived with my grandson, Liam. I'd walked this path dozens of times, but this time, every step felt like I was sinking into a nightmare. Standing before his wooden door, I knocked, first gently, then with more and more force. "Noah! Liam!" I shouted, my voice cracking in the cold air. No one answered. I tried the doorknob, just on a whim, and it creaked open. Unlocked. My heart hammered. Noah was meticulous, especially with Liam home. He'd never leave it unlocked. Pushing the door open, I stepped inside, holding my breath. The living room was a disaster, like a struggle had happened. The sofa was askew. A coffee mug lay shattered on the floor, white porcelain shards mixed with a dark, dried coffee stain. I stepped over it, legs trembling. In the kitchen, the water cooler was tipped, empty bottles rolling, uncapped. A cold, damp silence filled the house, sending a chill down my spine. I went upstairs, each step heavy. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Noah's home office was empty. His bedroom too, bed made, but no sign of life. Finally, I reached Liam's room. "Liam, where are you, sweetie?" I called, my voice hoarse. No answer. I stood amidst his toys, Legos, his old teddy bear, feeling my heart splinter. Then a tiny scrape came from under the bed. A plastic bottle rolling. I froze. A shiver ran down my back. My heart beat so hard, I thought it would burst. Something was under there. I wanted to look, but my feet felt glued. I stumbled back, grabbing the desk edge to steady myself. "Liam." I called again, but only silence answered, save for that faint, unsettling sound. Panic seized me. I ran out of the house, my hands shaking so badly I had to dial the police 3 times to get it right. "My son is missing. I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks. I screamed into the phone, my voice cracking. "There's a strange noise under my grandson's bed." I stammered, barely coherent, just knowing I needed help, fast. Less than 10 minutes later, red and blue lights flashed outside. I led 2 officers to Liam's room. With a shaky finger, I pointed at the bed. "Under there." I whispered, afraid to look. A tall, young officer knelt. "Is anyone under there?" he asked, his voice firm. A heavy silence filled the room. Then, without a word, the 2 officers lifted the bed. And there he was. Liam, my grandson, curled up. He was so thin, hair matted with sweat, clothes filthy, giving off a sour smell. He clutched an empty water bottle, eyes wide, expressionless, as if gazing into a world I couldn't reach. I stood, paralyzed, my heart frozen. The officers were in shock too. I fell to my knees, wanting to hug him, but my hands trembled too much to touch him. "Liam, my boy," I whispered, tears welling. He didn't respond, just clung to his bottle. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew this nightmare was just beginning. My name is Evelyn. I'm 61, living alone in a small town not far from a large southern city. My story truly begins 2 weeks earlier, that late October morning when I first realized Noah was gone. Those 2 weeks were an eternity of gnawing anxiety. The first day, I called Noah as always. Sitting at my kitchen table, phone in hand, I listened to it ring until voicemail. No answer. I sent a short message, "Are you okay, son?" It sat there, undelivered. A knot formed in my stomach. I told myself he was busy, battery dead, no signal. Noah was independent, always doing his own thing. I tried to calm my worries. But days passed, and the worry grew like a slow fire. I called at odd hours, dawn, late night, noon, always silence. I left voicemails, my voice trembling. Noah, where are you? Call me, please. I'm so worried. They were lost in the void. I started to imagine the worst. Noah wasn't one to vanish without a word. He called every week, talked about his job, about Liam, about their normal life. This silence was utterly unlike him. By the 5th day, I couldn't bear it. The anxiety was eating me alive. I tried his landline, hoping for his voice or Liam's. Nothing but rings in an empty house. I messaged Liam on his app, "Sweetie, where are you? Call Grandma." Sent, but never read. My heart sank. Liam, even at 8, knew how to use a phone and adored his grandma. He always replied. I called Noah's friends and coworkers. They were all surprised, hesitant. "Haven't seen Noah all week," a coworker said. Thought he was on vacation. A close friend added, "Last we talked was last month." He was swamped with work. No one knew anything more. The more I asked, the more I felt lost in a void without answers. Noah was dedicated, caring. Something had to have happened. On the 10th day, I couldn't wait any longer. I called every neighbor near Noah's house I had a number for. Their voices on the other end were full of pity. Mrs. Davies, an elderly woman across the street, told me that on the night of the big storm last week, she'd seen a light in Noah's house suddenly turn on, then off. "I thought the boy just turned on the light to go to bed," she'd said, but her voice trembled. Her words stabbed my heart. The night of the storm, a flickering light. Something was very wrong. 2 weeks passed. All my efforts were in vain. Not a message, not a call, not a sign. I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling, imagining everything. An accident? Kidnapped? But Noah would never leave Liam. Liam was his whole world. And Liam, my grandson, where was he? The more I thought, the more I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stand by another minute. I decided to go to Noah's house, and what I found there only deepened my anguish. Now, I'm sitting in the dim hospital room, gripping the chair's edge as if letting go would collapse my world. Liam lay in the bed, his small body almost swallowed by the white sheets. An officer had carried him from that cold house, and I, like a soulless shadow, had run after them. My hands trembled as I touched him, wanting to hold him, but afraid to squeeze too tight. Liam didn't react. Not a blink, not a sigh. His little hands clutched the empty water bottle, his anchor. The patrol car sped through the dark city streets, sirens echoing. I sat next to Liam, fanning him with a piece of paper I found in the house, gently patting his back. "Liam, Grandma's here," I whispered, my voice broken. But he remained a living statue, eyes wide, staring at nothing. I wondered what had happened to my grandson, to Noah. That trashed house, the empty water bottle, the noise under the bed. It was all a nightmare I couldn't wake from. At the hospital, doctors and nurses rushed Liam into the emergency room. I stayed outside, hands pressed to the glass, watching them move quickly around him. The whir of machines mixed with hurried voices. No external injuries, severe malnutrition, severe dehydration, signs of psychological trauma. Each word was a stab to the heart. Psychological trauma. My 8-year-old grandson, the boy who smiled like the morning sun, now thin, like a dry leaf. Later, the doctor let me in. Liam was on N4, a thin tube connected to his skinny arm. His eyes were still open, but they weren't looking at me, but at a distant place I couldn't reach. I took his cold little hand. "Liam, it's me, Grandma. Wake up. Please say something." He didn't respond, didn't even blink. I sat beside him, tears falling. I remembered him as a toddler, running in my yard, laughing, asking for stories. Now, that smile was gone, replaced by a frightening silence, as if his soul was locked away. The police arrived, notebooks in hand. A young, serious officer sat next to me. "Ma'am, when did you last contact Mr. Noah?" I shook my head, a lump in my throat. 2 weeks, I said, voice trembling. I called. I messaged. Nothing. Noah would never do this. The officer jotted notes, then turned to the doctor about Liam's condition. They spoke in low voices. "The victim shows no life-threatening injuries, but he's in a state of severe post-traumatic shock." Hearing those words, a stone crushed my chest. Post-traumatic shock. What had Liam endured? I wanted answers, but the officer only took notes. We're opening a missing person case. Could you come to the precinct for a full statement? I shook my head, almost begging, let me stay with my grandson. I can't leave him. They nodded, their eyes filled with concern, as if they too felt the dark shadow over my family. That night, I sat by the bed, watching Liam tremble as he slept in fits. He clutched the empty water bottle tightly, even in his sleep, as if afraid someone would take it. Sweat ran down his forehead. Occasionally, he'd jolt awake, eyes wide with terror, but he wouldn't speak. Just look at me with that empty gaze. I wiped his forehead, my hand trembling. Grandma is here, I whispered, though I knew he couldn't hear. The doctor, a kind, middle-aged woman, put a hand on my shoulder. Ma'am, the boy needs time. He went through a huge shock. Be patient. He'll tell us what happened. I nodded, but a terrible heaviness settled. Patience? How could I be patient when Noah was missing, when Liam was a shadow of his former self? I spent the whole night holding Liam's hand, listening to his weak breathing. I remembered the last time I spoke to Noah. His voice sounded tired, but he'd tried to laugh. Mom, I'm fine. Work's just been heavy. I hadn't realized how heavy. I hadn't asked more questions. Now, I blamed myself. If I'd paid more attention, called sooner, would things be different? 2 days passed. I didn't move from Liam's bedside. He was still there, small and fragile, hugging a teddy bear a nurse had given him. I tried to feed him broth, spoonful by spoonful. Eat, Liam, sweetie, get strong, come home with Grandma. He barely swallowed 2 spoonfuls, then clamped his mouth shut, gaze fixed on the ceiling. Every night was the same. Nightmares. He'd sit up, mouth open as if to scream, but no sound came out. I'd hold him, rock him, sing the lullaby I used to sing to Noah. Liam would just tremble, drenched in sweat. I asked for a psychologist. A young woman with a sweet voice. She sat beside Liam, held his hand, asked gentle questions. Liam, do you want to tell me something about your dad, or anything you saw? He just hugged his bear tighter, eyes on the floor. I stood by, my heart in my throat. Will he talk again, doctor? I pleaded. She looked at me with compassion. Ma'am, he needs time. The shock was too great for a child, but he will open up. It's just not the right time. I nodded, but couldn't be calm. Time? I didn't know how much time I had left, with Noah missing. Every day was torture. On the 3rd morning, I was cleaning Liam's face, gently wiping his thin cheeks. I tried to smile, telling him an old story about Noah, how he'd broken a vase and tried to tape it back together. Your dad was so silly, Liam, I said softly. But he loved you more than anything. Liam didn't respond, but I saw his little fingers squeeze the teddy bear. I was about to continue when my phone vibrated. The caller ID showed the police precinct. My heart pounded. A bad feeling washed over me. I answered, my hand shaking so much I almost dropped it. The detective's voice was grave. Mrs. Evelyn, I need you to prepare yourself. We just used luminol to re-examine Mr. Noah's house. We found a very large amount of blood in the living room. My ears went numb. The washcloth fell from my hand. I couldn't feel my hands. Blood? I repeated, my voice breaking. The detective continued, each word a knife. It's very likely we're dealing with a homicide. The crime scene has been cordoned off. I was barely processing, not fully understanding. Then Liam tugged my sleeve. I turned and saw his red, tear-filled eyes, as if he'd heard everything. And then, after so many days of silence, Liam burst into tears, a heartbreaking cry that shattered the calm. Dad, he's dead, he screamed, his voice weak, full of pain, as if his world had collapsed. I fell back into the chair, hugging him with all my strength, tears streaming down my cheeks. No, Liam. No, it's not like that, I told him, but I didn't believe my own words. Liam's cries carried over the phone. The detective quickly said, Ma'am, calm down. We're on our way to the hospital right now to take an initial statement. Please don't move. I didn't answer. I just hugged Liam tighter, letting my tears soak his clothes. Nurses rushed in, alerted by the crying. A young nurse knelt. Mrs. Evelyn, stay calm. Let us take care of the boy. but I shook my head, holding Liam tighter. No. I have to be here with him. I couldn't leave him alone now, not after those horrible words. The doctor gave Liam a mild sedative. He slowly stopped crying, but his eyes remained red, looking at me with a pain I couldn't soothe. I stroked his hair, whispering, "Grandma's here, Liam. I'm not going anywhere." But inside, I felt like I was falling into an abyss. If Noah was really... I couldn't finish the thought. I remembered the last time I saw my son, when he visited me, bringing sweet corn cake. "Mom, take care of yourself, okay?" he'd said with his bright smile. Now that smile felt like a distant memory, erased by the detective's words and Liam's cries. An hour after the detective's call, they arrived with a recorder and a notebook. A tall, slim officer sat by the bed. "Liam, can you tell us and your grandma what happened?" I felt Liam tremble, his shoulders tensing. He lowered his head, clutching the teddy bear. I stroked his hair. "It's okay, Liam. Just tell us. Grandma is right here." I tried to sound calm, but I was on the edge of a cliff. I was scared, but I needed the truth. After a few minutes of silence, Liam nodded slightly, a movement so small it broke my heart. I held my breath, squeezing his shoulder, and listened to each of his weak, broken words. That night, it was raining really hard, Liam began, his voice trembling, almost a whisper. I was playing with my Legos in my room, building a tall tower that Dad said was the prettiest. He paused, looking at his bear. Then the doorbell rang many times. I got curious and went to see. Dad was looking through the peephole, and his face was very tense. I'd never seen him like that. A chill ran down my spine. Noah was always calm, always knew how to hide worries from Liam. What had scared him? Liam continued, his voice getting quieter. Dad turned around and saw me. He ran to me, knelt down, and whispered, "Liam, get under the bed quickly. Don't come out until I call for you. You hear me?" I was scared, but Dad pushed me toward my room. I got under the bed, and Dad pulled down the comforter to cover it so no one could see me. I pictured my little boy, 8 years old, huddled under the bed in the dark, not knowing. My heart ached. Through a little gap, Liam continued, "I saw my mom come in with a very tall man. That man's face was very cold. He didn't say anything. He was just standing there with his arms crossed behind my mom. Chloe, Liam's mother, Noah's ex-wife. I never thought she would come back." Liam trembled, his voice breaking. My mom looked around and asked, "Where is Liam?" I got so scared. I thought she was going to find me. But my dad told her, in a calm voice, he went to his grandma's when winter break started. I knew Noah was lying. I didn't dare to move. Hot tears rolled down my cheeks. The officer didn't stop writing, but his hand paused when Liam continued. Then my mom started yelling at him. She was asking Dad for money. She said something about a debt that Dad had to pay if he didn't want trouble. But Noah shook his head. He wouldn't give her any money. He told her she'd gone too far, that she'd bothered him enough. Hearing that broke my soul. Noah had tried to escape Chloe's shadow, tried to build a new life for himself and Liam. But she'd come back. Liam stopped, breathing heavily. I rubbed his back. "Take it easy, sweetie. Grandma is here." He took a deep breath. Dad, my mom, and the tall man started fighting really bad. My mom was screaming, and the other man got closer, saying something like a threat. I didn't hear it clearly, but I saw him push my dad. Dad stumbled back, then he pushed him harder. Dad fell and hit his head on the corner of the table. There was a loud thud, and red water started coming out. Liam trembled uncontrollably, hiding his face in my chest, bursting into tears. I saw Dad lying there, not moving. I wanted to come out. I wanted to call him, but I was scared. I was so scared. I hugged him with all my strength. The officer stopped writing, looking at me with compassion. "This statement is very important, Mrs. Evelyn," he said gravely. "We are going to investigate this as a possible homicide. The boy has been very brave." I nodded, feeling an emptiness. Liam kept crying. His sobs were knives in my heart. I looked at the officer. "Are you going to find her?" "About Chloe and that man." He nodded firmly. "We will do everything possible, Mrs. Evelyn." I promise you. When the police left, I stayed, hugging Liam, feeling the shadow of tragedy. That night, I couldn't sleep. Liam's soft sobs echoed, calling for his dad in a faint voice. I'd wipe his face with a warm cloth, hoping to soothe his pain. But as I touched his cold skin, old memories rushed back, like salt on a wound. I remembered Noah in his 20s, career beginning, eyes full of faith. The pride with which he introduced me to Chloe, her smile shining like the summer sun. "Mom, this is Chloe," he'd said. "She's going to be my wife." Chloe, back then, was good, a bit clumsy, but always trying. She'd blush when I taught her to cook. I thought, yes, this girl is good. She'll make Noah happy. The whole family loved her. Then Liam was born, a new light. I remembered walking in the yard with Liam in my arms, his round eyes grinning. Neighbors would joke, "Mrs. Evelyn, you look 10 years younger." I'd laugh, full of joy. Noah and Chloe were happy then, visiting, bringing Liam and stories of their life. I thought it would always be like this. But everything started to fall apart. I remembered Noah's call. His voice dull. "Mom, Chloe, she got into some gambling trouble." I froze. I couldn't believe it. The first time, Noah quietly sold his beloved car, saved for years, to pay her debts. I saw him sitting in the yard, eyes red, but he tried to smile. "Mom, I'll be fine. I just want to help her." I took his hand, wanting to say something, but kept quiet, understanding Noah loved Chloe so much he'd do anything. But it didn't stop. The second time, debt collectors knocked on my door. I had to take out all my savings, my old age money. I didn't hesitate. I just wanted to protect my family. "Mom, I'm sorry," Noah choked that night. I didn't think it would get to this point. I hugged him, told him not to worry, that family supported each other. But inside, I was scared. Chloe was no longer the good girl. She became irritable, breaking plates over small things. I once visited and saw Liam huddled in a corner, eyes red because his mom had yelled at him for spilling milk. "You're just as clumsy as your father," she'd screamed. I pulled Liam away, tried to calm her, but she just laughed bitterly. "He's my son. I know how to raise him." Those words were a stab. Liam didn't deserve her fits of rage. I looked at Noah, consumed, his eyes reflecting exhaustion. Many nights, Noah called me, venting through tears. "Mom, I can't take it anymore," he'd say, voice trembling. "Chloe is not the woman I fell in love with. I'm afraid she'll hurt Liam." Hearing him broke me, but I could only console him. "Son, if you need me, I'm here." Finally, Noah decided to divorce and fight for custody. The day the judge ruled, I saw him sigh in relief. I felt the same. I thought father and son would have a quiet life now. But I was wrong. Barely 6 months later, Chloe returned, bringing a worse nightmare. The story Liam told about that stormy night, about Noah falling, replayed in my head. Chloe, the woman I once loved like a daughter, the mother of my grandson, had become a cruel stranger. Sitting in the hospital room, watching Liam sleep, hearing him sob for his dad, I made a promise. "Noah, I will get justice for you. I will protect Liam, no matter the cost." The next morning, the sun streamed through the window, but couldn't warm the chill inside me. I sat next to Liam, watching him sleep soundly after the sedative. His small face looked calmer, but the mark of pain was still there. The phone vibrated. The precinct. The detective's voice was grave, but urgent. "Mrs. Evelyn, we have new information. Could you come to the station right now?" I nodded, though he couldn't see me. I whispered to Liam, "Grandma will be back. The nurse will take care of you." I entrusted him to the kind nurse and hurried out, my mind reeling. On the bus to the precinct, I stared out the window, seeing only the image of Noah falling. I clutched my shawl, fighting tears. In the briefing room, the lead detective, a middle-aged man with a piercing gaze, waited. He spread a large map, pointing to red dots around Noah's house. "We have a new lead," he said. A neighbor's security camera recorded a suspicious truck the night of the storm. I held my breath. He played the video. It was blurry, shaky, but I saw a dark truck parked in front of Noah's house. Under the dim streetlight, I made out something. Long covered with a tarp in the back. Minutes later, the truck drove away. The detective continued, pointing to another video. We can't see the license plates clearly, but the model matches one used by a local loan shark gang. I clenched my fists. Liam's story, Chloe, the strange man, dragging Noah in a blanket. That long thing in the truck. I didn't dare think further. A young officer added, "We've checked traffic cameras. The truck appears at a couple of points, then vanishes on the outskirts. We're coordinating patrols." I nodded, my head spinning. "Are you sure that truck has something to do with it?" I asked, voice trembling. The detective looked at me, determined. "It's circumstantial, but very important, Mrs. Evelyn. We're not letting any lead go." A glimmer of hope, but the fear of what they might find left me breathless. After the meeting, the detective suggested I return to Noah's house with them. I hesitated. I didn't want to face that place, but I couldn't run. The yellow police tape still blocked the door. The forensics team was inside. I stood on the porch, my gaze fixed on the dried coffee stain where I'd found everything destroyed. It was a scar that would never heal. Suddenly, an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Davies, approached. Leaning on her cane, she whispered, "Evelyn, on the night of the rain, I heard a very loud fight at Noah's house. Shouting, furniture moving. I wanted to call the police, but I was scared." She lowered her head, full of guilt. I took her hand. "Thank you for telling me. Can you tell the police now?" Mrs. Davies nodded. I led her to the young officer. He wrote everything down carefully. I watched Mrs. Davies walk away, my heart heavy. I blamed myself, wondering if I'd arrived sooner, if things would be different. Before we left, the detective patted my shoulder. "We're going to find that truck, Mrs. Evelyn. Have faith." I nodded, but I didn't know if I had any strength left for hope. I left the house under bright sunshine, but my heart was cloudy. A few days after Liam's terrible story, I received a call from the precinct. The detective's voice sounded grave, with a hint of urgency. "Mrs. Evelyn, we found the address of Chloe's apartment complex. Do you want to come with us?" I looked at Liam, hugging his teddy bear, staring out the window with a lost look. I didn't want to leave him, but I knew I had to go. If there was any clue, I had to see it. "I'm on my way," I replied, my voice trembling. I entrusted Liam to the nurse again, caressed his hair. "Grandma won't be long. Be good. I'll be right back." He nodded weakly, but his gaze remained empty. The alley leading to Chloe's complex was in a forgotten corner of the city. I walked with two officers, my steps heavy, heart pounding from fear. The landlady, a sour-faced woman, sat smoking. As soon as she saw the police, she sighed in annoyance. "That Chloe," she said dismissively. "She left about 2 weeks ago, handed in the key, and took off." Her words were a blow. 2 weeks ago, exactly when Noah disappeared. I stood frozen. The young officer asked, when she left, was she carrying a lot of things? The landlady nodded, putting out her cigarette. "Yeah, a huge suitcase. She looked like she was in a real hurry, running from something. Even hired some guy to drive her away at night." Just as we were about to leave, a strange man appeared. Rough-looking, worn leather jacket, scarred face. He asked the landlady, "Is Chloe still here? I need to see her urgently." The detective stopped him immediately, his look cold. "Who are you? What's your business with Mrs. Chloe?" The man stuttered, tried to back away, but the officer held him. He sighed, annoyed. "I'm Marco, her loan shark. Chloe owes me a lot of money. She swore she'd pay me back in 2 weeks, but now she's nowhere." The police and I looked at each other. No one spoke, but we all thought the same. The moment Chloe fled, the moment Noah disappeared, and now the promise of a large sum of money. It all fit together terrifyingly. The young officer muttered, "Why would she be so sure she'd have a large amount of money in 2 weeks if she was so desperate before?" That question was a knife in my heart. A bad feeling grew inside me, cold and cruel. There was something darker behind all this. I feared the truth was even more painful than I'd imagined. That night, I sat by Liam's bed. He was still hugging his teddy bear. I took his hand, feeling the faint warmth of his fingers, trying to calm myself. But then, like lightning, a vague memory surfaced, making my heart race. Years ago, when Noah and Chloe were still happy, Noah proudly showed me a life insurance policy. "Mom, I want to protect my family," he'd said with his radiant smile. "If anything happens to me, Chloe and Liam will have nothing to worry about." The sole beneficiary then was Chloe. And now I realized Noah never mentioned changing the beneficiary after their divorce. That memory was a stab. Could Chloe, with her huge debt and desperation, have targeted Noah for the insurance money? I started to tremble, not from cold, but from a horrible premonition suffocating me. I looked at Liam, sobbing in his sleep, his lips moving to call for his dad. I couldn't stay still another second. The next morning, I called the detective, my voice trembling. I remembered something. Noah had a life insurance policy, and Chloe was the sole beneficiary. "Can you investigate that?" He was silent a moment. "Thank you, Mrs. Evelyn. That could be a key lead. We'll go to Mr. Noah's house right now." I entrusted Liam to the nurse, asking her not to leave him, and went with the police. Entering Noah's house, the yellowed tape was still there. The forensics team had left, leaving it cold and silent. The detective took me and a young officer to Noah's study. They rummaged through the file cabinet while I stood, clutching my shawl, a knot in my stomach. After an hour, the young officer exclaimed, "I found it." He held a blue folder, opened it, reviewed it, and passed it to the detective. He glanced over it, then tapped the folder against the desk. "Here it is, the motive." I saw Chloe's name printed clearly as beneficiary. My feeling was right. Noah, out of love and responsibility, had unwittingly left the path clear for Chloe. I sank into a chair, tears streaming. "Why didn't you change it, Noah?" I whispered, choked. "Why did you give her the chance?" The detective placed a hand on my shoulder. "Mrs. Evelyn, if Noah died in an accident, Chloe would receive all the insurance money. With that, she could pay off all her debts and live comfortably. This is likely the reason he disappeared." His words were a hammer blow. I clenched my fists, immense rage growing. Chloe had become a monster willing to take Noah's life for money. I remembered her young face, laughing happily next to Noah, and wondered what had changed her. That afternoon, back at the hospital, the phone rang. The detective, his voice more urgent. "Mrs. Evelyn, we've received news. They found an abandoned frozen goods warehouse on the outskirts, a place the Lone Shark Gang uses for illegal activities. We've sent a special team." My heart pounded. "What do you suspect?" I asked, trembling. He hesitated. "We're not sure, but it's possible we might find a clue about Mr. Noah." I sat by Liam's bed, my hands shaking too much to hold water. That night, after Liam was asleep, the phone rang again. I answered, my hands shaking. The officer's voice was halting. "Mrs. Evelyn, we found a body, a man, hidden in the frozen goods warehouse. We suspect it's Mr. Noah." I collapsed, a lump in my throat. My world fell apart. Noah, the person I loved most, now a body in a cold warehouse. I wanted to scream it wasn't true, but only tears came out. "Are you sure?" I whispered, my voice broken. "We need you to come and identify him," he replied, full of pity. "But please prepare yourself." The next morning, I went to the morgue with the police, terrible fear clutching my heart. In the patrol car, I clutched my shawl, seeing only Noah's face. His smile, the way he teased me when I burned the sweet corn cake. "Mom, if you open a bakery, I'll be your first customer." Now, that smile was a memory. And I was about to face a truth I didn't want to believe. When the car stopped, I got out, walking in a dream. The young officer, who'd been with me, put a hand on my shoulder. "Mrs. Evelyn, are you ready?" I nodded, knowing I'd never be ready. The door to the cold room opened, and frigid, chemical-smelling air hit my face, making me shiver. The white sheet on the gurney was slowly pulled back. I saw Noah's face. Pale, changed by death. But it was my son. His thick eyebrows, straight nose, the lips I'd kissed so many times. He was still my Noah. I burst into tears, falling to my knees, only able to say 2 words, "My son." I wanted to touch him, hug him, but my hands trembled too much. The young officer helped me up. "We are so sorry, Mrs. Evelyn." When I calmed a little, The medical examiner, a grave-voiced man, approached. He held a folder. The victim died from severe traumatic brain injury caused by a strong blow against a hard object. Time of death is estimated to be the night of the storm 2 weeks ago. His words confirmed Liam's story. I nodded, every word a knife. Thank you, I whispered, not sure why. Maybe for the truth, however cruel. The police continued the investigation, examining the truck. The detective called me at noon, his voice determined. Mrs. Evelyn, we found a blanket stained with red and a woman's jacket in the truck bed. DNA results confirm the stain is Mr. Noah's blood, and the jacket belongs to Chloe. I collapsed into a chair in the hospital hallway, my hands on my chest. All the pieces fit, forming a chilling picture. Chloe had really done it. Using the loan shark statement, police quickly arrested Marco, the man with Chloe that night. They invited me to watch his interrogation through a one-way mirror. The man initially denied everything. I don't know anything. I just went with her. But when shown the evidence, Chloe's jacket and the blanket, his face paled. The detective's harsh voice, you helped her hide the body. Talk if you don't. Want your sentence to be worse. To get a deal, he confessed where Chloe was hiding. I stood outside, clutching my shawl, feeling the world spin. Chloe, who once had dinner with my family, who laughed with Liam, was now a fugitive. I remembered her cold eyes before the divorce. Stay out of it, Evelyn. This is between Noah and me. I'd tried to stop her, to tell her Liam needed his mother, but she just laughed bitterly. A few days after identifying Noah's body, I received news. Chloe was arrested. Caught in a copy shop, trying to forge documents to flee the city. The detective called, soft but firm. Mrs. Evelyn, we have her. Do you want to come to the precinct? I hesitated, looking at Liam, drawing on his bed. No, I replied, choked. I don't want to see her. Just make sure she doesn't escape. But in the end, as police led Chloe down the hallway, I watched from a distance. Handcuffed, gaunt, hair disheveled. I felt a mix of anger and a strange, deep pity. Chloe had destroyed her own life and the lives of those she loved most. The trial took place in the city courthouse, attracting press. I sat in the front row, holding Liam's hand, feeling him tremble. He didn't want to come, but I gently convinced him. Liam, we have to do this for your dad. Grandma will be right here. He nodded, but his eyes were full of fear. The courtroom was packed. The air felt heavy. The prosecutor, a tall man with a sharp voice, presented the evidence. He played Liam's recorded statement. My grandson's small voice trembling, recounting the night of the storm. Hearing it squeezed my heart. I hugged Liam tighter as he hid his face in his bear. The prosecutor showed photos of the blanket and Chloe's jacket. DNA results confirm the blood belongs to Mr. Noah. He projected the security camera images, the blurry truck carrying something long. Finally, he held up the life insurance policy, pointing to Chloe's name. This was the motive, he declared, his voice echoing. The defendant planned a murder to collect the insurance money, pay off her debts, and live comfortably. I looked at Chloe in the defendant's box, her head bowed. At first, she tried to remain calm, but as evidence mounted, she began to tremble. Suddenly, she jumped up, shouting, I didn't mean to kill him. I just wanted my money. Her voice broke, but no one was moved. The prosecutor approached. If you only wanted money, why did you hide the body? You staged a fake accident scene and tried to collect on a life insurance policy. Chloe was speechless. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. She turned to Marco, screaming, it was him. He pushed Noah. Marco stood, face red with fury, pointing at her. You were the one who planned everything. I just did what you told me. You told me to push him, to help you hide the body. The courtroom grew tense. I hugged Liam, feeling him tremble. Grandma, he whispered. It was all my fault, wasn't it? I stroked his hair, trying not to cry. It wasn't your fault, Liam. Your mom made a mistake, and she's going to have to pay for it. But I knew those words couldn't heal his wound. After hours of deliberation, the judge, a serious woman, stood. The defendant, Chloe, is found guilty of first-degree murder and fraud and is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The accomplice is found guilty of accessory to murder and concealment and is sentenced to 20 years. When the sentence was read, I broke down crying, hugging Liam. My tears were for the pain of losing Noah, but also for the relief that justice was served. Liam hid his face in my chest, crying uncontrollably. I rubbed his back, whispering, "It's over, my boy. Your dad can finally rest in peace." A few weeks later, I closed up Noah's house for good. I couldn't go back to that place. I took Liam to live with me in my small town. I enrolled him in therapy, hoping his heart would slowly heal. Every night, I sit by his side, telling him stories about Noah, how he always wanted me to be proud of him. "Your dad loved you so much, Liam," I say, stroking his hair. "And Grandma does too." That night, I sat by the window with Liam asleep in my arms. Moonlight streamed in, soft like comfort. I looked up at the sky and whispered, "My son, I promise you, I will raise and protect Liam for you. Justice has been served." Tears rolled down my cheeks, but I felt a small bit of peace. As if Noah were smiling down at me. I hugged Liam, knowing that though the pain of losing my son would never go away, I still had him, and I would spend the rest of my life taking care of him, just as Noah did. I truly wonder, if you were in my place, what would you have done?